on INEC and House of Representatives Committee on INEC on the bill for an act to repeal the Electoral Act number 6, 2010 as amended and enact the Independent National Electoral Commission Act 2020. That is the essence of his public hearing. And having done that with the establishment of protocol, it is my honor and privilege at this point in time to invite the chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, distinguished Senator Architect Kabir Gaya, to please come forward for his welcome remarks. Please, let's welcome him with a resounding applause. Can we have some quiet, please?
Your Excellency, distinguished Senator Ahmed Lawan, PhD, CON, President of the Senate and Chairman of the Nation, progressing this occasion in time when we are in the process of passing the 2021 budget. This action is a testimony of the sensitivity of the Electoral Act, and it also shows the level of commitment and determination by the National Assembly to see this process through in record time. At this point, it is noteworthy to know that the Senate at its plenary referred the Senate Committee on INEC at different times bills for the Act of Amendment Electoral Act 2010, including a bill for the Act to establish an Electoral Offences Commission. In the House of Representatives, there are also similar bills calling for various forms of amendment Electoral Act. It will interest you to note the Electoral Umpire INEC have penciled. I want to assure you that the proposed enactment will focus on public and institutional agitations, which include, but not limited, number one, greater institutional independence of INEC. Two, electronic accreditation of voters, e-voting, e-collation, and electronic transmission of results. Three, establishment of Electoral Offences Commission to prosecute electoral offenders. D, include women, youth, and persons with disability in the electoral process. E, strengthen the financial autonomy of INEC by providing legal timelines for the release of funds to INEC for the conduct of administration of elections. I therefore look forward to active participation of all of us here present, and also online participation on various online portals that have been set up by our partners, PLAC and Yaga Africa, to ensure that the issues of unearthed by the present act are put in the right perspective, addressed and interrogated extensively to bring out a robust and commendable bill to guarantee a strong and vibrant electoral institution, an electoral process that will produce credit.
Welcome, you're welcome, man.
The Senate President, the Chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, I beg to stand on the existing or already established protocols. The Senate President, sir, I am not going to say a welcome address. I'm just going to give an overview of and synopsis of the bill. On behalf of the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters, I'm delighted to once again welcome all of us to this very important public hearing organized by the Joint Committees of Independent National Electoral Commission in the Senate and that of Electoral Matters in the House of Representatives on a bill for an act to repeal the Electoral Act number 6, conduct of free, fair, and credible elections. We also have concerns that the electoral legal framework on certain issues should be well settled ahead of the 2023 elections, such as the use of technological devices like the card reader and electronic voting system, criteria for substitution of candidates, disclosure of source of funds contributed to political parties, replacement of lost or destroyed permanent voters' card, penalty for the possession of fake voters' card. Dates for conducting primary elections shall not be earlier than 150 days and not later than 120 days before the date of election, etc. The bill, which seeks to repeal the Electoral Act 2010, addresses many loopholes in our electoral system by way of amending over 300 clauses, which includes new provisions. In whole, these amendments include sections of the Electoral Act 2010 amended by the 8th National Assembly, which was not assented to by the President, and a draft proposal from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. In Section 3.2a of the Electoral Act 2010, which provides definite timeline for the release of funds to the Commission for the discharge of its statutory duties, the amendment is an insertion which states that the funds for general elections shall be released to the Commission not later than 180 days to the date appointed for the elections, and an oath of neutrality by election officers. Subsection 1 is amended to read: 1. All staff, electoral officers, presiding officers, returning officers, officials, and staff taking part in the conduct of an election shall affirm or swear to an oath of loyalty and neutrality, indicating that they will not accept bribe or gratification from any person, and shall perform their functions and duties impartially and in the interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria without fear or favor. In Section 30 of the Electoral Act 2010, under Notice of Election, the section is amended by introducing a new subsection 4, which states that there shall not be substitution of candidates in a by-election except where a candidate of a political party in a by-election dies. The party shall submit to the Commission the name of its substitute candidate within 48 hours of the death of the candidate prescribed by the Commission. In Section 34 of the Electoral Act 2010, under Publication of Nomination, the section is amended by inserting new subsections 2 and 4, which states that 2. Any candidate who observes his or her name shall notify the Commission in writing, signed of polls, and before the announcement of the final result and declaration of a winner, a candidate dies. A. The Commission shall, being satisfied of the fact of the death, suspend the election for a period not exceeding 21 days. B. The political party whose candidate died may, if it intends to continue to participate in the election, conduct a fresh primary within 14 days of the death of its candidate and submit the name of a new candidate to the Commission to replace the dead candidate. And C. Subject to paragraphs A and B of this subsection, the Commission shall continue with the election, announce the final result, and declare a winner. In Section 42 of the Electoral Act 2010, under Establishment of Polling Units, the subsection is amended to subsections 1 and 2 as follows. The Commission shall divide each local government area into registration areas, not being less than 10 and not more than 20, as the circumstance of the local government area may require. The Commission shall establish sufficient number of polling units in each registration area or electoral ward and shall allot voters to such polling units. In Section 49 of the Electoral Act 2010, under issue of ballot paper, subsections 1 and 2 are amended to read: a person intending to vote in an election shall present himself or herself with a voter's card to a presiding officer for accreditation at the polling unit in the constituency in which his or her name is registered. File is introduced, which provides that failure of a political party to notify the Commission as stated in subsection 1 shall render the convention, congress, conference, or meeting invalid. In Section 91 of the Electoral Act 2010, under limitation on election expenses, subsection 1 is amended as follows. 1. Election expenses shall not exceed the sum stipulated in subsection 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The maximum election expenses to be incurred by a candidate at the presidential election shall not exceed 5 billion naira. The maximum amount of election expenses to be incurred by a candidate in respect of governorship election shall not exceed 1 billion naira. 4. The maximum amount of law by former President Goodluck Jonathan shortly before the 2015 general election. We have to strengthen our electoral legal framework and our electoral system for the development of our democracy. Equally important to note is that the proposed electoral amendment related to the Constitution is already being taken care of by the ad hoc committee on the review of the 1999 Constitution, headed by the Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Idris Watsi, as chairman. One other observation I feel it is important for us to look at is the issue of persons with disabilities. The PWDs deserve a special consideration, most especially concerning elections and electoral process in Nigeria. Then there is the issue of politicians engaging youth to perpetrate electoral violence, fraud, and abuse of electoral processes. In most cases, the youths were used to violate several sections of the Electoral Act 2010, such as Section 23, concerning offenses of buying and selling voters' cards, Section 94, under conduct at political rallies and processions, Section 95, under prohibition of certain conduct etc. at political campaigns, and Section 128, under disorderly conduct at elections. Politicians must desist from using our youth in such a manner, and the youth must be properly enlightened on the consequences of such negative acts. As we embark on this public hearing today, I urge you all to be open in your suggestions and bring forth new ideas on how.
Very quickly, there is a lost but found laptop. If you have misplaced your laptop, please go to the Secretariat for this joint public hearing, somewhere at the back there, with proof of ownership and collection. The second one, not too pleasant, is that an Infinix Hot 6 phone has been declared missing. If you've come across one, please, as a good Nigerian, we don't have Samaritans in Nigeria, so a good Nigerian, please return it to the Secretariat and God bless you. Having made these announcements, Your Excellency, our special guest of honor, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, standing on the existing protocol, I'd like to at this point erect a plaque to please come for his goodwill message.
Holders, civil society organizations, and indeed all persons involved with our politics and elections to be present here to share their perspectives on what a new electoral act should be. I think it's also commendable the decision of the National Assembly to repeal and reenact, and as the both chairmen have stated, both laws that exist at this present time have a lot of confusion with several amendments. So I think it's commendable. I have listened to the leadership of the National Assembly, particularly the Senate President, commend the important need for a quick and early passage of a new electoral act. And I think 2 weeks ago, I was in an event where the Senate President spoke about the important need of passing a new electoral act before the end of the first quarter of 2021. I think this would be really very commendable. I think this would help the Electoral Commission because in the 2019 elections, we did see the delay in passing the amendments that were made and how that hampered INEC's work. So I think that if the National Assembly, as the Senate President have stated, and I think the Speaker as well have stated, if the National Assembly does proceed with the timeline that it has set for itself, then I think this would be something that the Nigerians would really be very happy and will commend.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Senate President, distinguished Senator Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, ably represented here, the Chair of the Senate Committee on INEC, and the Chair of the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters. I stand on other established protocols here. Yaga Africa commends the Joint Committee on INEC and Yaga Africa commends the Joint Senate and House of Representatives Committee on INEC and Electoral Matters for finally convening this public hearing. Today marks the beginning of our commitment as a people to collectively review our electoral laws for a process that truly guarantees the right of the people to vote and choose their leaders. Today marks the beginning of a process that truly gives us a legislation that we can be proud of. All credible, free to deploy technology that reviews the role of the courts in our elections and properly regulates both the process and cost of political party primaries. We also want a law that provides for political inclusion of women, young people, and persons with disability. And gender is very important because our democracy can no longer be sustained with a system where women are excluded. We want gender balance for sustainable democracy. We need a process that takes into consideration the needs of persons with disability. We need a process that prosecutes electoral offenders. So we would want to see the establishment of the Electoral Offences Commission. You see, there's a huge task ahead of us, but this requires as a collective responsibility to support the National Assembly as we work together to reenact an electoral act that truly meets our desires as a people.
Very quickly, it is time for us to then listen to the speech by the Right Honourable Speaker of the House of Representatives, His Excellency Right Honourable Femi Gbajabiamila, who is ably represented here by the Deputy Leader of the House of Representatives, Right Honourable Peter O. Akpatasin. Please let's welcome him to the podium for his remarks.
Yeah, because it's safe here, right? He asked me to say good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and to welcome you to this, good afternoon rather, to welcome you to this public hearing on a repeal of the Electoral Act 2010. This hearing is critical as it is historic. Critical because it is an opportunity for Senate and House of Representatives to gather the ideas, concerns, and observations of a broad section of Nigerian society on matters that affect all of us. The conduct of these elections that is the foundation of our democracy today is therefore historic because when we achieve successful reforms of our electoral process, every person in this room today will long remember this contribution to the joint task of nation building. The 9th House of Representatives in our legislative agenda adopted the reform of the Electoral Act as one of our principal priorities. We did this because there are evident lapses in the way we operate our political processes that needs to be addressed as a matter of urgency, or else we risk a situation where Nigerians across the country lose faith in the political process. This is an outcome that we must act to prevent because them against all odds. However, the change we face now is that for too many of our citizens, incremental change is no longer enough. Therefore, there is an expectation that the National Assembly will lead the way in taking legislative action to deliver big, fundamental, and structural changes across the electoral processes from nomination through to inauguration. This is not an unreasonable expectation from our people. After 20 years of democracy, it is not too much to expect that we will have by now established an electoral process that is different, efficient, reliable, requiring all effort and commitment to achieve desired outcomes. I thank all civil society partners who have worked with committees to make this event successful. And I thank all of you who have...
Thank you very much. The Speaker, House of Representatives, ably represented, Chair of the remarks, and declare this public hearing open. Can we please welcome him with a very resounding applause?
Thank you very much, the MC. Please be seated. The Right Honorable Speaker, represented, principal officers of the Senate and the House, very distinguished and honored members of the National Assembly present. There's a long list of protocol which Senator Kabir Gay, the chairman, read out. So please permit me to stand on the protocol established. Ladies and gentlemen present here, we have also seen the limitations in the legal frameworks governing the elections and the overarching activities preceding elections. These activities include campaigns, course of elections, voter education, amongst others. The progress we have made in our democracy is no doubt significant. We, however, have to understand that democracy always offers opportunities for reviews and improvements. The windows of improvements come from the experiences of practice, leading to lessons upon which we can enhance the course of democracy. The will to make improvement also depends on the vision of stakeholders, acting to consolidate the democratic process as a precursor to growth and development. We have learned our lessons more than 20 years after the dawn of democracy. The lessons have sometimes emanated from challenges of clarity is also significant. Securing the process is similarly very important, and we should not only see this from the point of physical security, but additionally from how technology can be deployed to limit human ability to interact with the process and possibly preserve it. I'm aware we have started, but the onus is on us to continue improving on it, and most importantly, to legitimize the initiative through appropriate legal frameworks. The hearing for which we are here assembled is an excellent opportunity to explore all dimensions of our experiences and then suggest ways of institutionalizing recent innovations, technology. The enthusiasm this hearing has generated through the enormous volume of memorandum, aside the continuing interests of critical stakeholders, are encouraging. The collaboration of frontline civil society organizations concerned about perfecting our election process is equally heartwarming. I'm confident we are set to get the required input to progress with the repeal of the Electoral Act No. 6, 2010, and enact the Independent National Electoral Commission Act 2020. Those things that we have set for ourselves. But alongside the Electoral Act, certainly, and this is not a digression, and if it is, it's a worthy one, that the PIB, which is equally very important for this country, will receive similar treatment. We intend to pass the PIB before the second quarter of next year by the grace of God. And as we all know, this is one bill, one legislative necessity that has defied passage or defied assent. From 2009, when the first bill on the PIB came to the National Assembly, to date, it has not been able to either been passed or been signed. This time around, we'll do whatever it takes to ensure that it's important that the Electoral Act addresses all those issues that we have experienced from 1999 at least to date in this Fourth Republic. We would have election today in Zamfara. a by-election or a rerun. We had elections on Saturday. Definitely, if we check, there will be issues that will interest us and maybe we'll be begging for attention for us to address. So in the National Assembly here, and particularly the 9th National Assembly, we have set a legislative agenda in the Senate, and they have an effort at refining our electoral process. Nigerians would always hope that the National Assembly and the executive will work to ensure that the political environment remains neutral, impartial, that even the most vulnerable but could be popular are able to go into contests and come out victorious and triumphant, because the process is a free process. It's not a monetized environment. It's not a militarized environment. And these people are self-serving. When we are not self-serving, and we, from my experience, both in the House and in the Senate, National Assembly has never been self-serving. That sounds controversial, isn't it? National Assembly has never been self-serving. National Assembly is probably one institution where the members are extremely conscious of what they do because of their electorates. We are always opened and exposed, and easily the most reachable set of elected people. So we are, but we are human beings. We may misjudge a situation. We may take the wrong decisions. But I want to assure you that we will do whatever it takes to give Nigerians
and consent to have a credible, transparent electoral process. He has graciously agreed to stay back and listen to at least a few presentations. I'd like us to applaud him for that. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. It is on this note that we yield proceedings to the chairman of the Committee on INEC and Electoral Matters, Senator Kabir Gayasa.
The President of the Senate, we thank you for your non-controversial speech. I would like to invite the acting chairman, INEC, to do his presentation, because the President of the Senate said he will stay behind to listen to one or two of the presentations before he goes back to the chamber. So, Chairman, you should go to the podium.
He will join us and be with us in this event. So we should expect him any moment from now, sir. But because of his absence, I have been tasked to make a presentation on behalf of the Commission. May I start by thanking the Joint Senate and House Committees on Independent National Electoral Commission and Electoral Matters, and thank Clark and Yaga for this opportunity of sharing some thoughts on the Independent National Electoral Commission at this auspicious public hearing on the repeal of the Electoral Act number 6, 2010, as amended, and the enactment of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And national commissioners are constitutionally now required to be non-partisan, as required by Section 156 and paragraph 14(2), subsection A of the 3rd schedule of the Constitution. And very importantly too, the amendments to Section 161 of the Constitution empowers the Independent National Electoral Commission to make its own rules and regulations, to regulate its own procedure without recourse to the President. Other amendments were also made to improve and strengthen the electoral processes, and the National Assembly also made far-reaching laudable in the now set to be repealed Electoral Act 2010 as amended. The need to repeal the Electoral Act 2010 and in its place enact the Independent National Electoral Commission Act 2020 is occasioned by the yearnings of stakeholders, including INEC, for robust and innovative provisions that will engender freer, fairer, and more credible elections in Nigeria. Owing to this, there have been concerted efforts coordinated by the National Assembly over the last 4 years to enthrone a new legal regime, jurisprudence to feed Independent National Electoral Commission 2020, and found that out of the 91 proposals that were submitted to the National Assembly for the amendment to the Electoral Act, only 48 proposals were considered. Nevertheless, we believe that there is no doubt that this bill, if passed into law, will further improve the electoral legal framework and deepen democracy in Nigeria, because it has taken into account quite a large number of aspects that were observed earlier. The timeline, for example, timeline for release of INEC funds, making the resident electoral commissioners answerable to the commission directly, increase of timeline for nominations, and a host of other provisions. The commission commends the efforts of the National Assembly in considering improve and strengthen the electoral process will be enforced soonest. And thank you very much. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, the acting chairman, INEC. Even though you just said that the substantive chairman has just been sworn in, but you are now still the acting chairman now, until he takes over or you hand over. So the next person to speak will be the Senate President. We're happy that he's waiting a while to hear from one or more two persons. So we'd like to get the views of the former Deputy Senate President, Ike Okumaredu, his own views. Then later we call Solomon Bob.
And I believe, just as the Senate President said, that the electoral process is as dynamic as the society itself. Let me say a few words regarding the Electoral Commission bill, or rather the need or the effort to create an Electoral Commission's Electoral Offences Commission and the agitation there to all this while. This has been a recurring request from the public. Well, we've been very circumspect in dealing with this issue since the 6th National Assembly. For some reasons I would like to share with you, so that as we finalize work on this, we need also to be informed about some of the concerns regarding this. One is that as a fledgling economy, we believe that it does not make sense to have too many bureaucracies. And the other issue is the issue of Section 252 regarding electronics voting. Well, the history of Section 252 was, I think, the 6th Assembly as well, when in 2008 we started working on the amendment to the Electoral Act, or an Electoral Act that eventually was passed in 2010. I recall that at that point, we worked with the civil society to insist that INEC will be given some powers to try electronic voting. Now, when this was included as Section 252 originally, that's Section 52 of the Electoral Act of 2010. When the matter came to the floor of the National Assembly, especially the Senate, for passage, and when it was, there was so much agitation from our colleagues against that provision. And then we sought to withdraw that provision, giving INEC the powers to use electronic means to conduct the election. Our colleagues and everybody applauded it, including Mr. President. So I would like to see Section 52.2 being amended further to allow INEC to now use not just the electronic means in voting, but also in transmission. I believe that is exactly what Nigerians would like to see. And if we don't do it at this point, then we have missed it for a long time. So I believe that the committees in the Senate and the House, working with INEC and the civil society, will find an appropriate words to ensure that this is accommodated in the present effort. The other thing is that if you look at some of those provisions we have, some of them we may have challenges when you just oppose it with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I believe that there should be a technical session between the INEC, the committees, as well last week. As we speak now, nobody's sure who won the election. INEC just said APC won. Who in APC? The matter is still controversial because of this kind of attitude where we have a last-minute effort to conduct primaries. These are matters that we've been dealing with since 2010. We've tried to reduce the number of months or within which election petitions will be concluded. We succeeded in that. It was difficult for the cause initially until they came with practice direction that resolved it. We now moved it further to also put timelines for pre-election matters, which the president graciously assented to, which most people don't even understand anyway. Now, matters concerning pre-elections, the National Assembly, State Assembly must end within a given period and has to end at the Court of Appeal. Only ones relating to governors go to the Supreme Court.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Senate President, let me stand on other precedents already established. I am actually very delighted to be part of this forum. When we were, at the beginning of the session, when we were choosing committees to which to belong, this was the first committee I chose, and it's for obvious reasons. You know, nothing gives Nigeria such a bad image everywhere in the world than our seeming incapacity to conduct credible elections. So it's something that's of great passion for me to participate in the process that would see how we can bring about a better electoral act. I'm not suggesting that anything we bring here, the legislation can be, that fear will be banished because they have a safeguard, security, a basis for the action they've taken. So there are other things we deal with, respecting the whole question of, who actually is a concerned election, like a party or an individual, either a human person or illegal person. Section 36. Section 3, paragraph C. My chairman touched on it when she was giving the synopsis during her remark. We also revisit that. And so many other ones. Section 52, which our Venerable DSP just spoke about now. If allowed the way it is now.
Thank you very much. We'll have the national intelligence. Okay, sorry. Thank you very much. We are waiting for the submission. You're okay. Thank you. So the next is the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps.
Nigerian Intelligence Agency.
behalf of, I'm representing the Commandant General of Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. He has sent his goodwill message on this INEC matter. He, however, put his own contribution to the amendment bill of Section 59(1), impersonation by applicant for ballots, in which case he said the current provision is that if at a time a person applies for a ballot paper and before he has left the polling unit, a polling agent, polling officials, and security agents inform the presiding officer that he has reasonable cause to believe that the person is under the age of 18 years or has committed the offense of impersonation, and gives an undertaking on a prescribed form to substantiate the charges in court of law. The presiding officer may order the police officer to arrest or police force as their sign, as their logo. Conduct of political rallies. Here we've specified that other security agents too can be given the chance to as well be as of the place of the political rally can be corrected, just as the case that the police, as they say, other security agents too should equally have the same say. Thank you very much.
That there's a need, as it is now, going forward in Nigeria, to establish a commission specifically to deal with electoral offenses. The Federal High Court, as is constituted currently, is overburdened. There are other issues of election that the Federal High Court take, but when it comes to electoral offenses itself, I think it's our view that there should be a commission established for that purpose. The EFCC, as a public institution that seeks to entrench the culture of transparency and accountability and probity in our national life, we are deeply interested in the positive reformation of the electoral processes in Nigeria. It is our view, therefore, that this reformation, this current amendment, is a matter that should be given utmost importance as it is today. The electronic voting system that the DSP mentioned in the amendment of 2015, former DSP, mentioned in the 2015 amendment, it has not yet been comprehensively statutorily backed up. So this amendment should, in the US, which we have been trying to copy over the years, election starts from long before the actual election date. I think this amendment should include something that gives that kind of picture. Nigerians can vote from their homes. Nigerians can vote by mail. Nigerians can sit down in wherever they are and vote for elections without coming out on election day. Most of our elections, you go for election. I went for supervising election in Katsina State. By 3 o'clock, when they say they should stop accreditation, there were long queues from one polling unit to the other, all because election is one day. So it's our view that we can conduct more credible elections if elections are allowed to start earlier than usual. Finally, let me say this as I go back to my seat. The electoral amendment
commission that will deal with all these cases. I know that areas where you mentioned that financial institutions and corporate entities allegedly used to launder money during elections. And the job of also EFCC and other security agencies to arrest and find those people doing those activities and be charged to court. And we have electoral offenses commission that will handle that. The other issue also you mentioned is the issue of e-voting and where we can be able to do voting at home or online. I'm sure we'll get there. We have not started like this before. We started the system of election and we're improving. We have now card reader and we're going to electronic voting. Very soon, even people in diaspora will vote from anywhere they are. So we are moving forward, and by grace of God, we'll continue to improve. So thank you for your contribution. The next, I will invite one of my colleagues to contribute, Senator Nala, who has been a force in this electoral act, and he has contributed a lot in the committee, and also a lawyer and a pilot with 3 children, 2 in the house, so there are 4 pilots in that house. So, Senator Nala, can we hear from you? You go to the podium. You go to the podium.
There are 3 concerns that I believe that in our effort to properly situate our electoral process in a manner that it will guarantee free, fair, and credible election, which often we misuse interchangeably to give the impression that an election is free, fair, and credible. Well, we all know that the 3 concepts are distinct and distinguishable, and they are mutually independent. First, Nigerians are concerned about the stupendous amount of money that government spends to conduct election. And by their nature, simple. The wishes of the electorate should as nearly as possible be considered in arriving at any judicial decision that affects judicial electoral process. Mr. Chairman, you are aware that in this country we have seen people who never contested election and who got to the executive position of elected offices. This is very, very important that the National Assembly address in the coming amendment. And lastly, let me say that we must, as a parliament, take steps.
Get clerk of the committees so that we can allow them to speak. Clerk, come up with those names so that we can go to the next speaker for 2 minutes. We have Barrister Esther Uzoma from Plaque, so let's hear from you.
No, you saw the political parties.
Give me the name.
Albino's Foundation.
Huh? You have taken 1 minute already. 1 minute of your 2 minutes, yeah?
National Rescue Party. Those are the ones that are still here for now. So
as a lady, I can understand.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, sir. Yes. I am Esther at 43-4A because it was also extensively discussed. This section for 38 is just in isolation. It just came from nowhere. Now, 38-4, the vague term, substantial compliance. We have noted over and over again that it does appear a paradise where judicial officers leverage. I think we should begin to define what qualifies as substantial compliance. My big brother is nodding. He agrees with me. Chief Festus Okoye. Substantial, what does it really mean? What is the threshold? What qualifies as substantial compliance? Because it's not an objective, a measured term.
Thank you very much, Barrister Esther Uzoma, for your contribution. You are making me to believe that what a man can do, woman can do better. Thank you very much. Representative of Iaga, if there's anything you need to add apart from what you have spoken, or your representative, please. 2 minutes.
Thank you once again for the opportunity. I'll just go straight to some of our proposals since we've submitted our memorandum. My name is Cynthia Mbamalu, and I stand here on behalf of Yaga Africa. For our proposal, because we have an opportunity to reenact the Act, one of our foremost proposals is for the new law to adopt gender-sensitive or gender-inclusive pronouns. So the use of his, her, which is on party primaries. Now, one of our proposal also aligns with some of the proposals before the National Assembly to provide for specific regulations for conduct of primaries. Summary of that is that for direct and indirect primaries, venues, dates, and timing should be properly communicated. We should have that in the law to reduce the tendencies of parties changing venues and aspirants not knowing where the locations for primaries are. We're also proposing limitation for cost. And I know there's a proposal for at least 10 million for president. We're saying reduce that at the maximum cost for nomination for president should be 5 million, and further reduce that so that women, young persons, and persons with disability can also afford to contest at the primaries level. The other is also on delegates. So both ad hoc and statutory delegates for the
Winners Foundation, Joke Ekpele. Can you come up here? Please give me space.
Mr. Joke Ekpele, please. And I'd like to plead with all of you that are being called up here for presentation. We are aware that you've already submitted your memorandums to the Secretariat. So you are just asked to come and summarize. So when you come, please skip the protocols and just go straight to your point. You have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
The next person should be prepared is the leader of the delegation of disability, Nigerians who are disabled. That's her name.
Chairman, good afternoon, everyone. I had advocated for extension of time for any time and every time a person with albinism is in examination or presentation. That's an international law. It's called a time and a half. Please give me a time and a half because I didn't come alone. I'm here representing the entire community. Floor at this point to Grace.
Thank you. Your points are noted and we'll use your presentation or the report submitted to us.
I think that's
the mic.
Give her the
mic.
Can we carry you?
We're sorry the place is not...
You see?
Okay, hold on.
Give her one of those mics there. Let her get closer to the mic. You're welcome.
Well done.
You have submitted already your memorandum, so now we'll look into it.
Thank you for the...
It's
working. This is
okay, fine. So,
let me move backwards.
sorry, she has to speak.
It is careful so that it can propose a feasible reform. The standard practice is to have a signed translator for such declaration. Afterwards, results will be uploaded online and given to candidates, parties, and stakeholders. What forms should this take? The concern should be to ensure that subsequently that results can be made available in the manner requested by the person who satisfied due process. The community believes it does not need to be overburdened on the bureaucracy of this unnecessity. Our recommended amendment says sign language interpreters must be used simultaneously when final election results are being declared in different elections. Subsequently, the Commission should make results available in mode, means, and formats of communication easily accessible to requesting results. I'm going to come.
The areas that have been discussed by my colleagues will be important to us and acceptable to all of us. And I'm very happy that, like I said, as the CRPD representative here, I'm very happy that we are being included because Section 4.3 of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities says that anything that is happening, any decision making to be taken in the country should include persons with disabilities. So we're happy that this is taking place and that we hope that all these decisions will be useful to all of us. Thank you very much.
Barrister Dalami Basharu, we thank you very much, and congratulations, you are the chairman, Committee on United Nations on the Right of Persons with Disability. Congratulations. Please.
Protocols observed. My name is Ario Daria Toye, Center for Liberty. Just from our primary process, in the sense that a governor is already going for maybe a second-term election, already has enough people to win a primary. So what we are saying is that the issue of statutory delegate, if possible, should be deleted and let it be ad hoc delegates, so that we don't create a situation that confers undue advantage on anybody. And if you look at that section 87, that has been in a way mentioned, but further extension of that has actually, affected that provision under that 8721, subsection 21. Finally, we will believe that we should have all elections in one day in Nigeria. And because we can no longer afford, economically speaking, the idea.
And then, of course, like I said, we are part of the that provide security on election days. And then we are thinking that border closure should be incorporated, especially during general elections, because as it is now, it's currently an administrative issue which is done randomly. And then we're also thinking that a violation of border closure on voting days should be criminalized, because there have been instances where non-Nigerians have been intercepted with our voters' cards, from being registered, from obtaining a voters' card, from, and then the issue is when, for instance, they have gotten these voters' cards and then they are queuing up on election day to vote, how, we are thinking that it should be legitimized. That process of withdrawing the voters' card from them should be legitimized and unambiguously, stated in such a way that removing that non-Nigerian from that queue will not be sensationalized by political parties or even put the operative in a harm's way. And then another thing that is very dear to our heart is diaspora voting, or external voting, if you like. We already have in place the structures, for identifying who non-Nigerians is, especially non-Nigerians that are being issued passports abroad. So that's said.
We have National Rescue Party. The National Rescue Management, Movement, yes. You are among the 18 parties, right? Is among the 18 parties that survived.
Okay, thank you. Introduce yourself. Okay, my name is Fasasi Sodiq from National Rescue Movement. National Rescue Movement. So, we have some presentation here talking about the compromised security during election. So, as we
please, we need silence.
Just 1 second.
Usher, silence, please.
Please, those of you serving refreshment, if you must serve refreshment, then you must do it quietly, please. And you don't give to anybody who is standing. Everyone is expected to be seated. I thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, talking about the compromised security during election, this is one of the major challenges in our electoral process, because the security men that are supposed to protect the citizens are used against the citizen.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because I have only 2 minutes, I'll just go straight to the point, pleading to stand on the existing protocols. So we identified a couple of issues with the proposed bill, and while it has a lot of commendable a lot of commendable provisions and a lot of laudable improvements. I will just mention a few things we think needs to be changed also. First is the issue of INEC's management of police expunged from the bill. Then also, when you look at the issue of election, if you are a lawyer like myself, you will know that one of the biggest issues is tendering voters register. By the time you put the bundle on the table, even the judges on the panel will be scared. So we want to recommend that, thank God the new bill makes provision for electronic voters register. It should go further to make provision for the tendering and admissibility of electronic voters register during election petition. It will make it easier for everybody. Even obtaining the voters register from INEC currently is a nightmare. But when that is given to political parties in form of protected hard drives, it can be tendered, and it's just one simple item than coming with 5 or 6 Ghana must goes of voters register.
You'll be the next person, so be prepared. As soon as she's done, you should come up to speak.
And please wear your nose mask, please.
Go ahead, madam.
2 minutes, please.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to please stand on existing protocols as I have just 2 minutes. My name is Abuja, and I represent an organization called Electoral. And today, I think we're all here to discuss how we can elect women. I'd like to start by acknowledging the political will of the Night Assembly, to acknowledge the current women's political representation deficit across all appointive and elective offices in Nigeria, and as such, pushing for legislation to eliminate all forms of discrimination, hamstringing greater representation in our polity. For the purpose of this hearing, Electa, as a women's political advancement organization, is pushing sisters. We should put in kind consideration that political parties as custodians and gatekeepers are very much responsible at that level to help us amplify this voice. If we have the right representation, then this will increase candidacy and in effect increase the representation of women at elective office. While we cannot control the outcomes of elections and the will of the people, the provision of a level playing field for men and women through the proposed temporary special measures will most certainly present the opportunities for the diversity of choice. If this electoral act holds political parties accountable for implementation of these practical recommendations, we will most...
Thank you. I don't want to talk about protocols because we don't have time. Let me tell you, we have solved the problem of e-election. We have come up with a biometric system that is iris retina recognition, and nobody can have the same. Now, with this, you can vote from anywhere in the world. You can vote from your bathroom, you can vote from an aeroplane, you can vote outer space. So we have come up with e-voting that has resolved all the problem. Now, we are going to work with the National Assembly to ensure that Section 52, subsection 1, is not allowed to be done by INEC, because it requires a lot of subsection in order to get it right. Polling booth is, you, a Nigerian, can vote from anywhere in Nigeria, because each polling unit has a number that identifies you. So when you go to e-polling booth, what happens is that it takes you to your actual polling unit via visual transmission. So all these problems, I don't want to elaborate all of them because they have. So what I'm saying in essence is that we shall get it right. We want the United States, Europe, and Asia to come to Nigeria to adopt our system. We are ready to work with National Assembly. We are ready to work with them and get it right. With INEC, e-polling booth is, you, a Nigerian, can vote from anywhere in Nigeria, because each polling unit has a number that identifies you. So when you go to e-polling booth, what happens is that it takes you to your actual polling unit via visual transmission. So all these problems, I don't want to elaborate all of them because they have. So what I'm saying in essence is that
we shall get it right. We want the United States, Europe, and Asia to come to Nigeria to adopt our system. We are ready to work with National Assembly. We are ready to work with them and get it right. With INEC or without INEC, because INEC is a bit relaxed. Because, I'm sorry to say this, INEC is not as proactive as National Assembly. I was shocked. INEC wants to appropriate a technology that it will use to manipulate the system, and we shall not allow that to happen. If they want, we go to court, and they show why they cannot use the type of technology we have.
No, after Aisha.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, fellow Nigerians. My name is Aisha Yusufu. I am here on behalf of Fix Politics Initiative. Fix Politics is a citizen-led research-based initiative designed to be executed as a big push for structural change of politics. We've sent in our recommendations, and one of the things that we've consistently said as members of the Fix Politics Initiative is that for us to fix Nigeria, we first of all have to fix the politics of Nigeria. And indeed, fixing the politics of Nigeria, part of it is also looking at our electoral laws and ensuring that we have laws that will fit in and ensure we have credible, free, fair election. As a member of the Fixed Politics Nigeria, I will make 2 minutes to be strictly 60 seconds. We sent in our recommendations, and so I'm going to take only 2 out of this because we don't have time within the 2 minutes. The first one is on Section 2, Functions of the Commission. And we talked about the fact that it says provides that INEC can conduct any referendum required to be conducted pursuant to the provision of the 1999 Constitution. And this is where we say, indeed, we need a new Constitution. It's as simple as that. And yes, the National Assembly...
Electoral Committee report will particularly advise that appointments into INEC be not politicized. We'll also add that the process of appointments into INEC should be open and democratized to accommodate members of the media, faith-based organizations, political parties, and even members of the National Assembly. The establishment of an electoral offenses commission to serve as a clear warning to anti-progressive and anti-democratic forces in the polity would also advocate for the unbundling of INEC into specialized agencies to deal with
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols duly observed. My name is Eniola Cole, Executive Director of NES Action and member of a 5CSO coalition for constitutional and electoral reforms, demanding for action from lawmakers on the Electoral Amendment Bill.
Please, what is NES Action? Tell us the full meaning of your organization.
Okay, it originated as Nigerian Election Sensitization Scheme and then translated into NES Action. First of all, we would like to commend both chambers of the National Assembly for making this public hearing see the light. The content of our memorandum, which we believe will help curb violence and reduce the cost of elections, full biometrics for accreditation 2020, this year 2020. We therefore appeal and encourage the Senate Committee on INEC and House Committee on Electoral Matters to review this timeline and give us Electoral Act 2020. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Aniola. We'll do our best to get charged by the first quarter of next year. This Electoral Act should be out of the National Assembly for next year, for the President to sign. Thank you. Next person should be representative of the Coalition for Constitutional and Electoral Reform. Is he here? Is he around? Okay, next person should be representative of Diaspora Board, Nigeria, NG.
In different countries. If INEC can establish offices in these places, then it will be really easy to register Nigerian citizens in different countries. You hold a Nigerian passport, and therefore you can go and register in the INEC offices, and then you're allowed to vote. Of course, so many people have come here to talk about electronic voting. This would even make it easier and simpler. That is really all we ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me just correct an impression. When you talk about diasporans, you're always thinking about those in the US, in the UK. You're not talking about people in Niger, Republic, Chad, Cameroon. In Katsina, we have a house in Katsina.
Submit our memorandum because we just got the information this morning. But what I want to talk on...
You can summarize your memo and submit to the Secretariat later, but now you can speak on the memo.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. What I'm talking about now is on section 59, which talked about underage voters, which we'll call impersonation. And, you know, as the NSDC presenter was talking about it, my mind went to section 29, subsection 4, sub B of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Can we just oppose what we are talking about? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your observations. Whether she's 16 or even 14, if she's married, she's allowed to vote. Yeah, that's it. Can I now invite Austin Egbe, Center for Democracy and Development, CDD.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. The country's election is the single most important event, particularly as it justifies the democracy. We think that our word that we have sent to the National Assembly is that it is time to digitalize an inclusive electoral system. Madam, my daughter, 6 years old, said I should tell you that you are not a man. You should stop bearing the name chairman. We must be specific in the way our diction, our narrative is in our Constitution. The masculine narrative of the Constitution undermines women and girls' political participation. That the Resident Electoral Commission, the new act has proposed one term. We think that there should be the second clause that it can be renewable, just like the Secretary of the Commission too. And we quickly, also, we particularly draw attention to, in quote, penalizing presiding officers who contravene certain transparent processes. And we forgot that we also have to put a clause to protect the same presiding officers when they are under duress to contravene those processes, who protest them. We think there should be a clause where those presiding officers are under duress, like the case we had in the 2019 election, the commission be empowered to cancel that polling unit or whatever decision to protect, because when you're under duress, that the provisions made with campaign finance is really commendable, and I thank you so very much.
Well, Austin, thank you very much, and you mentioned that we should save cost in the election, and you are saying we should also allow more political parties. Currently, we have 92 political parties, but some are registered to 18 now, and we hope we will reduce more to save money for the nation. Present your memo. We will look through the memo. And correction, sorry, you mentioned issues on chairperson or chair lady or chairman. In the Senate, we refer all leaders of the committees as chairman. And even in the House, we do the same. Well, that's an advice. Thank you for your advice. We also would like to invite Madam Lewis Auta, who is a woman living with a disability. She will comment. Give her one of your mics there. Mrs. Lewis, present to the committee, not to the chairman, acting chairman, INEC.
because it's inaccessible to persons or citizens with disabilities. So where is the inclusion? National Assembly needs to show an example that yes, they are advocating for the rights of persons with disabilities. Thirdly, we need to reserve 5% of the 35% affirmative action that women are asking for women with disabilities. At the political parties, National Assembly, and all our agendas, we need to include issues of women with disabilities because we suffer triple jeopardy. Thank you so much.
And if there's anything that gladdens my heart, it is that the Senate President was here today himself to make a commitment to these electoral reforms. What particular reform recommendations will ensure that young people can participate in our country, especially in the political leadership? One, electronic voting. And we've mentioned a lot about electronic voting today, but the clause, section 52, subsection 2 of these amendment bills gives a blanket clause or blanket powers to the Independent National Electoral Commission, which says that INEC then has powers to use electronic voting if it deems fit. The same innovation, permit me to use that word, that has been included for the nomination process for political parties that lays down a clause made candidates if it's primary people have a challenge of finance in our politics. And that's why campaign finance reforms are very, very important. The limitations on electronic expense by candidates says that 5 billion is the limit that you can spend as a presidential candidate, but then you have to pay 500,000 naira as fine if you exceed that limit. That clause, I believe, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair, should be amended because it tells me as a candidate that all I have to pay to be able to extend this cap that the law has recommended is 500,000 and 500,000 naira. We believe this should be amended to reflect much more stringent fines for anybody who expands on this bill. The final point I want to make, sir, is the nomination process. And we support this innovation that parties should have delegates. The role of godfathers in our elections in Nigeria is very, very clearly stated. But if we have delegate elections that is monitored by the Independent National Electoral Commission at the ward level, then young people can have a chance to present themselves to get elected. What we think should then be included, which is my final point, is the introduction of a modus operandi for indirect primaries. For direct primaries, rather. The currently in the reenactment says that if you are running for president in a party, then what you need to do is the total number in the entire party for direct primaries, which means that
Senate Committee at gmail.com. I believe the MC should also relay that email message to members so that they can take note on that. I think I have to thank members of this people that came here for this committee public hearing. We really appreciate, but we would like to invite the chairman or chairperson of the committee or chairman of the committee on electoral matters from the House of Rep to say a word of yes. Nala. Other observations? Yes, in addition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have just received a text message from one of my constituents, and I felt that since we are concluding this hearing, it's important that I put it from the Electoral College, so that the accusation of being biased will equally be taken away from INEC, and the credibility of the process can further be enhanced, because credibility of electoral process is closely tied to the respect that the citizens have for those who have been elected into the office. I just felt I should bring this to your notice, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Nala. We appreciate, but I would like to now invite the Chairman House Committee on Electoral Matters. Will actually go to the podium.
You'll agree with me that it's been a very hectic.
Patterson, the Deputy Leader of the House, to be with us. I want to also sincerely thank distinguished senators, members of the Committee on INEC, for being with us. To my honorable colleagues from the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters, I sincerely appreciate you, and I like the support that is always rendered to me and the interest. It is a committee of almost 43 members, and you know, I'm just primus inter pares, but I enjoy working with my members. For sitting here all day through, I'm going to, come up with a clean copy of the electoral amendment bill. So we will still contact you, and please, we hope that anytime we call upon you, you will not hesitate to come over to give us your own contributions. Thank you very much, and may God bless Nigeria.
Well, that has been the discussion here. I think it has been a very fruitful discussion. Most of the voices here are actually talking about electronic votings and transmission of results, more women and youth inclusiveness, people with disability inclusiveness, early voting to allow security men and members of the press to cast their votes on election days, electoral offices, tribunals to be established so as to try electoral violators.